Ever feel like your organization is stuck in an endless cycle of putting out fires instead of truly innovating? You're not alone in that frustration. Today, we're diving into a well practiced solution, an approach that will transform how you and your team solve problems and drive innovation. Our returning guest, Doug Hall, is a master of turning chaos into clarity. He's not just the founder of Eureka Ranch and the co founder of Dexter Bourbon Distillery, but has spent decades helping companies break free from innovation roadblocks. Doug also has a new book hot off the press titled Proactive Problem Solving: How Everyone Can Fix Problems and Find Ideas for Working Smarter. Doug joined us back in episode 518, and he's with us again to share battle tested strategies that will help you fix problems faster and smarter. Miss this episode, and you might just stay trapped in that reactive problem solving cycle that holds your organization back from its true innovative potential. So let's jump in, get equipped to proactively solve problems instead of just firefighting. And if you're listening to us and you want to watch the video version of this, go to our YouTube channel. You'll find that by searching for Product Mastery Now on YouTube.
How can you unlock your full potential as a product manager? We're sharing the product management insights you need. They are based on the 7 research-backed knowledge areas for product mastery. You'll learn to create products customers love, enhance your influence, and elevate your career. Welcome to Product Mastery Now, hosted by Dr. Chad McAllister, product management professor, practitioner, and your guide.
Doug, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Chad.
I'm delighted you're back. If people did listen to 518, which I highly recommend that episode, we kind of left it just getting to the point where we were uncovering some tools. And then after we stopped the recording, you said something about, well, I actually am just getting this book done that I'll be publishing soon. They'll talk more about this. I went, we have to get back together. So that book, Proactive Problem Solving, what led you to write that new book?
Two things, and as people are familiar with my books know, one of the things that makes the Eureka Ranch and my life's work is that it's grounded. We are compulsive. I mean, I have a full-time statistician at the ranch. Two pieces of data really got me thinking about this direction, which ended up in a book. And it wasn't an intent; it just happened organically as I learned. The two pieces of data were the fact that for the average manager, we were doing surveys of how much time they waste fixing employee mistakes
Mm.
and broken systems, problems with the standard operating procedure, the bureaucracy, communications, IT stuff. In other words, how much time do you waste? And the number blew my brain. 3.5 hours a day, the average manager wastes dealing with employee mistakes and basically systemic problems that are built into
Wow.
their work system. And of that, only 25% is employee mistakes. 75% is the bureaucracy, the work systems, the standard operating procedures, the junk. And that's all self-inflicted. That's the thing that's amazing. This isn't like competition. This is internally, you've created this bureaucratic morass that does it. And so wasting 3.5 hours a day, that got my attention. And I said, how can we fix that? And if we can get the employees engaged to help fix the systems, then we can capture some of that back. The second piece of data came from what we're well known for, which is inventing big ideas for companies. And the data showed that when an idea goes into development, it has a value. When it comes out of development, it loses 50% of its value. And that's because this idea that is meaningfully unique that goes into the process, it's different. Well, that's what makes it unique, is it's not the same. And so whether it's manufacturing, whether it's distribution, whether it's route to market, whether it's the sales, whether it's marketing, finance, whatever it is, what happens is this idea, this sparkling new idea becomes compromised, and compromised to fit the existing system as opposed to the system adapting to this wonderful new idea. And I realized that, what do you do to this? What do you do? Make the ideas twice as good so that you can get more? That's
Right.
crazy. And so we got to get the employees that when this thing comes in new, if they've got a culture of never ending continuous improvement and they're really fired up to do proactive problem solving, then they will problem solve how they can ship this new thing without compromising it into mediocrity and near certain failure.
Okay. Good position for wanting to get this information out into people's hands, save managers from wasting time, and hopefully make employees in the process more effective, and get our products actually delivering on the value that we had envisioned when they were first put together. This isn't just, but you just say anything about we just mess up forecasts. This is we're compromising on the actual idea through the development cycle, and it's not delivering the value that was expected.
I had a CEO once, I was showing him the data, and he said to me, he says, Doug, you know, the miraculous thing is I keep hiring all these people to do innovation, and I get these brilliant ideas. But it seems like whoever I have running innovation, no matter what they do, it comes out of our system looking like everything else we've always done.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, there's all kinds of great memes and cartoons about this issue, right? That, hey, we want to do innovation here as long as it doesn't introduce any risk and it's not different than anything we've done before. Right.
Yeah. If you could do it, if it's exactly the same as everything you always done before, it's not going to be different.
Right.
And what makes you think that's going to work?
Yep.
Of course it
Absolutely.
doesn't.
Right. Okay. Let's get into this aspect of problem solving a bit and the core issues of your book here on that. As I look through, you were kind enough to send me a pre-read before it was published, and as I look through, there are kind of some big sections there about defining problems, creating solutions, and reducing risks. And I do like tools. I like getting our hands around concrete ways of making the work we do better. And I was hoping you could take us through maybe a favorite tool for each one of those. And so defining problems is the first area, if you want to dive into that.
Yeah, and by the way, I love your approach to it because I'm tired of too many books talk about the problem, but they don't actually show you how to do it.
Right.
And of course, we're legendary for the how-to stuff. When it comes to defining the problems is critical. And we've got all kinds of different ways we do this. And sometimes it becomes task focused.
Mm-hmm.
Project management offices want it to be task focused. But what we know is when you look at organizations that do amazing things, impossible things, one of those organizations that is better than most any other is the modern military. And the military has gone from, instead of telling people, here's the KPI you got to hit, they give them something called commander's intent. And the commander's intent came out of World War II and the Korean War. And it's something where you define not only what you want to do, but why it matters. Because the what points the organization in a certain area, but the why gives them the depth to understand. And then lastly, you give people some guardrails or boundaries for what's in scope and out of scope. And the military does this, and we've got a form of that. And in this book, we simplified it down to the very simple. We start out with defining what the problem is and why it matters. What gives us focus? The why energizes us. It gets us
Mm-hmm.
excited. And so when it gets hard and we know how important this is, what this is going to do for the customer, what this is going to do for the environment, or whatever it is that we're working on, the why is the motivational energy source.
Yeah, I remember that Simon Sinek, I don't know if it was a TED Talk or not, that he did on the why, right? And the why is what
That's right.
motivates us to take action.
Yeah, so we have a thing called a yellow card.
Okay.
It's pretty simple. And you start out with defining the what and the why of the problem. And then you define a solution, how it works, key benefits, and then importantly, and this is almost as important as the what and the why, the end, which is an easy next step to learn more. Because see, we have a
Mm,
tendency to say, you know, you come up with an idea, say, let's just do it. Well, when it's different, that causes stress. So you got to give people Kaizen like an easy first step to learn
right.
more and to build their confidence. I mean, and this all came out of Chad. I think I mentioned before, I wrote a big article for the American Psychological Association, the first chapter in the Handbook of Consumer Behavior ever written on innovation. And you get into the psychology of this, which is influencing all my work right now, is the psychology of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be respectful when you're asking people to do something different. We've always done it this way. Now we're going to change. Giving them an easy way to get started is critical to making it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I might follow up later. I can send you a little article. When I was doing my PhD, my dissertation shared this. I think it was called the Beckhardt change formula, and it goes by a couple names. That's why I'm hesitating on that, but I know that's one of them. And that's a key aspect is when we're trying to employ some sort of change in an organization, we need a next believable step, right? So something that people
Yes.
go, oh,
I
okay,
like
I
that.
understand.
I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I understand why this is important. This makes sense to me that if we do this next step, we can at least learn a little bit more to move in that direction.
Yes.
Okay, I like the yellow card. This is a good place to get started.
Yes.
Okay, so that gives us a way of defining the problem. I want to ask you just briefly about
Well,
that.
actually, Chad, it does two things.
Okay.
What the yellow card does is it gives us the clarity focus with the what and the why. But then as we start to put down the solution, how it works, key benefits, and easy next step, it gives us a way to communicate it to our fellow workers, to our boss, so they can understand it with clarity. As an aside, we did a TV show in Canada, the ranch did, called Backyard Inventor. And 14 times the inventors, we had 48 hours to work with them, and then they pitched a CEO to take in their idea. 14 episodes, 14 times they pitched, 14 times they got a yes. To the point where the producer's like, does everybody win? I go, what do you want me to lose? What do you think I am? Amateur? No, we're going to do this. And it was because they had that clarity in the structure. So the yellow card helps the person solving the problem, but then it helps them take it to the world so that
Hmm.
others can see it as they see it.
Yeah, yeah, really important. So we have a good grounding in the why. Why is this important? Okay, so we got the defining problem part, the yellow card, and now the next big section is creating solutions. And you talk about a few things in there. Maybe I'll just tease it that there's more to come in the book. But is there a tool that you can share with us about creating solutions?
Well, well, yes, it's a number of tools in it, but it starts with explaining why the tools work.
Hmm.
Okay, because when you understand why they work, not only can you do you understand why the tools. I just did a training yesterday, and they said what amazed me about this is oftentimes you go to a training and they teach you stuff and you don't know why you need to know that.
Right.
And so, because it's not obvious, he said, you keep reinforcing it. So before we teach tools for problem solving, of which there's many, we teach them the three principles that are inherent in every one of those tools.
Hmm.
And what our research of thousands of people has found, and we have quantitative data, and I've published in academic journals about it, is that getting that solution comes from stimulus. Ideas are feats of association. So you have to have a system for bringing in some stimulus to react to. It's very similar to De Bono's lateral thinking. That disruption causes your thinking to go sideways.
Mm-hmm.
And so stimulus is key. And then next puts in actually into the equation exponentially is diversity of thought. Because when you get diversity, I take that same piece of stimulus, and if I have three people that each think about it differently,
Mm-hmm.
they multiply the impact of the stimulus. And so the second thing is diversity. And then the third, so that's what creates an idea, stimulus and diversity. What prevents you is fear. And
Hmm.
so you got to drive out fear because people will literally come up with ideas when they're in a create session. And when they have to then report them or say them, they subvert them because they're scared to even say the great thought that they had. And it drives me crazy. It's like, that's a great idea. Why aren't you? Well, you know, that's, so waste, total waste. They've gone to the trouble to come up with a solution, but they're scared to share it.
Right.
And so we'll take them through different exercises. And for instance, one of the things we'll do with stimulus is a mind dump, where we'll take literally and mind map the first thing that comes to mind from each of those people as they're looking at the problem.
Hmm.
And if you've got a diverse group, they're going to see it differently. And you start to explore each of those, and that gets you to a new place. When it comes to diversity, we want to really maximize it, we might do something we call musical chairs, where we have them take on the persona and look at this. Say, like the company I was with yesterday, they sell industrial cleaning equipment to institutions. And there is the manager, the company leadership, then there's the manager of that facility, and then there's the person that actually does the cleaning. And so we literally looked at the challenge they had from the eyes of each of those three different stakeholders in their distribution channel, in the sales channel. And that causes people to look in a different way. And we wrap these together into something called a create session, which, as Dr. Van Gundy of Oklahoma famously said, he says it has more stimulus and more things to open the mind than anything he'd ever seen before. Because the alternative to stimulus and diversity and systems for that is what I call the brain drain or the suck method of creativity, where all you're doing is sucking ideas out of people's head, and it's not very
Mm,
useful, not productive, and frankly, not a lot of fun.
right. Yeah, it is draining. So tell us what a create session looks like then. If I'm in the room with you with a group of maybe six other people, what are we doing?
Well, and to be clear, there's a couple of types of them.
Hmm.
Because oftentimes, depending upon the scope of the problem, if this is a small work problem and you got a work team and your work team is sitting there and you've got something that's driving you crazy. I mean, it's taking you twice as long as you should, and you know it shouldn't. You need to find a way to do it. You get the team together, then that might take an hour. You get together, you identify the what and the why of the problem. You start to bring in some stimulus that people different have, and you start to mind map them out and play with them, and it's done. And you've got an idea or you got a couple ideas, and then you move on to the next section, which is driving out risk, to start to validate them. If it's a bigger challenge, say it's a company wide, it's a big problem, then what you might do is small create sessions for just over lunch or an hour or 2 hours,
Hmm.
and that gets stimulus and ideas, and then those come up into a broader session where you've got stakeholders from across the company to take it to a higher level. So it's like you're doing a two-level create session, if you would. Because otherwise, what happens is the first time you do it, it can be pretty shallow. But if you've done some ideas and then you take those ideas and take them to the next level, you
Hmm.
go deeper in your thinking, and that's how you get the really kick butt ideas.
I like it. The stimulus part sounds pretty important here, right? And just if we get a group of people together and we throw out a problem, why that's important, and we start generating ideas, we're going to come up with some new things. But your ranch is known for helping create an environment where this is really a stimulus-rich environment. What is something that we can do? Give us a tip here on making the stimulus meaningful.
So let me give you stimulus, two parts.
Hmm.
First one, what is great stimulus? Stimulus is disruptive. It's something weird, something contradicting your behavior, something that
Hmm.
forces you to stop and think. Okay. It has a disruptive nature to it. It's like when you hear it, you go, huh, I hadn't thought of it that way. And
Hmm.
that can come, and here's the second part. There are six types of stimulus because we've gone compulsively deep into this
Hmm.
over the many years. One of the best is patent mining,
Hmm.
where you take patents. Because remember, three-quarters of the patents are in the public domain. They're free. And what is
Hmm.
the patent? A patent is a recipe for how to do it, because it has to be an enabling disclosure to get a patent. The patent's gone in the public domain. And in fact, our crazy whiskey company came from looking at four patents in the public domain, and I put them together in a different way and created now patents that we have in 51 countries. Um, and so patents are one of the best ways to use as a stimulus to start to get you to think about it differently. There's also wisdom mining, which is right next to patents, is academic articles, which what's great, they give this stuff away.
Right.
They give it away. And in fact, I built a company, Accupol, by reading Manuel Kawani for Purdue and a whole bunch of other articles on predictive scales. And I created the Accupol company, which I built and sold, all from academic articles.
Hmm.
And so they can be rich. You've also got classic insight mining. What's the customer thinking?
Hmm.
Market mining. What's competition doing? Those are pretty classical. But then you also have future mining and you have unrelated mining, which is just random thoughts that are just thought provoking thoughts. The challenge is okay, I got all this stimulus. I've done the mining before I do the thing. What
Hmm.
do I do with it? And a lady that worked for me, Maggie Slavonic, did a brilliant job. And she came up with something called Spark Decks, where you'll have a disruptive image or video or fact or research or whatever it is. And then right on the same, oftentimes they're done in slides, right beside it are some thought-provoking thoughts that says, okay, if this, then what could we do? How might we use this piece? How could we twist this? How could we use this contradiction and use this? How
Mm,
could we use this research to go do it? And what that does is then when a person comes into a group and they watch a deck of maybe 6 slides, their mind starts to explode because they've gotten 6 different thoughts and they start to make connections you would never have imagined. And it literally, an idiot can create ideas when you got a Spark deck. And I'm not saying the people are idiots. I'm just saying it's not like you say, what do you want to
it's
do? And
not
it's like,
hard. Right.
it's easy. It's
Right.
easy because you've loaded up the brain with thought provoking stuff that's going to blow their brains out. And Spark decks just kill. They just kill.
Love that.
And you'll use those in a create session, even if it's an hour one or if it's a 3 day big project where you're doing cycles and reinventing. So when we do it over 3 or 4 days at the ranch, you'll hold a session one day, invent ideas, then you blow them up and you start all over again. Then you blow it up and you start all over again. Guess what? That's what entrepreneurs do. In the
Right.
corporate world, we think we can just plan, 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 and have the answer. Well, that's just not how it happens. You have to create a lot of crappy stuff until you get to the
Right.
great stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So are Spark decks something proprietary to Eureka Ranch, or is there an example of these that we can find somewhere?
Well, the books have them. All my books feature them. This book
Okay.
actually has an example of one of them in it.
Okay.
Um,
Good.
and so we've done them, and I've written about them, and there's articles and blog posts on them and stuff like that we've done.
Okay. So we can find some resources, including the book.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Okay. Okay, so we did the defining the problem. We got the yellow card. Creating the solutions, the create session, going through stimulus, having that
sure.
diversity of thought, driving out fear. And then thank you for going into those 6 different types of stimulus and thinking about where we can get some new input from. And then the other area we talked about was driving out risks. And what do we do about this?
Uh, so this is where we really go back to Deming. And Deming, of course, is the guy that recreated Japan after World War II, transformed the American culture, Lean Six Sigma, all of that comes from Deming.
Hmm.
And he famously had what was called the Deming Cycle. Trueheart had done original stuff, but it became the Deming Cycle in time, which is plan, do, study, act. And that's different from plan, do, check, act that Toyota uses in plants. And full disclosure, we work with Toyota, and now they use both.
Okay.
PDSA, as is known, Plan, Do, Study, Act, is for discovering new things. Plan, Do, Check, Act is for implementation of a thing.
Hmm.
And the plan is basically your hypothesis to solve this problem of what it might be and what success looks like. The do is the results from doing the thing that you thought would work. You thought that if I ran this experiment, if I made this adjustment to the concentrations, if I changed our IT system there, if I changed my hospital work process that we've got, the standard operating procedure, it might work. So the do is I try it and I see what happens. And I measure it, I assess it, and I look at it, and I document my findings.
Hmm.
Study is the most important part of the 4. Study is now thinking, and Deming was big on this. Why did it work or why didn't it work? And really thinking deeply about that to understand why. And it's just as important to understand why it worked as it is to understand why something didn't work,
Right.
because now you're getting true understanding. And then the last act is okay, based on what I've done, have we achieved our goal? Have we solved the problem? Okay, maybe. If we
Hmm.
did, great. Change your SOPs. That's your new system. You got it. If it didn't work, now we have to decide did we learn something that we say, hey, if we tried this, it might work? In which case, then you go back around and you do it again.
Right.
And 98% of the time, you go around again a number of times.
Hmm.
Okay. And it's that 5th grade thing you learned about the scientific method. This is a functional, actionable way to do this quickly and easily. And one of the most famous stories about this is when we were creating our whiskey system for creating amazing whiskey, our woodcraft finishing. We did 72 tests in 7 days, 72 different whiskeys.
Wow.
Famously, it was Friday night, and number 72 was going in to be made. And we thought we had it. We knew it. And it comes out, and it's horrible. So we did the only thing you can do in the whiskey business when something doesn't work. We went to the bar and we drank. The next morning, we got up and we said, what did we miss? And we went back through the documentation of the 72 PDSAs that we'd done. Because we said, somewhere we missed this.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at some different things, and there was James from Frey was with me, a PhD, and he and I are looking at it over breakfast. And we're saying, where did we miss something? And then suddenly, and I don't remember who it was, said, look at number 13. When in the study there, we said, didn't work, probably didn't have much of a chance of working. I said, that's pretty lame.
Right.
We didn't really think about it. What if we misinterpreted why that one didn't work? We just blew it off. What if? And then James and I went back and forth, and the thought came, hmm. So I lived next door to the ranch. We ran over to the ranch. We grabbed bottle 13 and we tasted it. And we said again, what might have gone wrong here that we ignored? And an idea came up where we had zigged, we should have zagged. We put in number 73 and woodcraft finishing, and a patent now in 51 countries was born at that moment.
Fantastic.
We figured
Congratulations.
it out. But the
Yeah.
mistake was we didn't take the time to study the results. You get the results, it doesn't work. You go, okay, that's stupid. It was a dumb idea. No. Why? Why?
Right.
Think. That is the magic. And when
Yeah.
you do that, and you know for sure why it's working or why it's not working, that drives out your fear and the risk of failure because you truly know what's working and not working.
Right. Absolutely. The other aspect that obviously this contributes to it is just the culture of the organization too, right? If we have, as you said before, entrepreneurs think a little bit differently. If we have one shot at getting it right, wow, the stakes are high, right? And we feel that fear. If we have a
That's right.
process like this, the Deming cycle, and we know we're going to learn every time we try something and get better at it until we get it right, then that removes a lot of that fear. Like, no, we know where we're headed. It's just going to take some time to get there.
Chad, you are so right on so many levels. We do market research. We do lots of market research. We have very rapid research. We can do it in 2 hours. I can get you quantitative data on an idea. I can test a whiskey product in 24 hours. I can do 3 paired comparison blind tests for 5% of the normal cost because we have better systems.
Wow.
Our research is not used to say we got it or not. Our use is an aid to our development process. And we test products. We know they're bad because by testing them, I can look at the sensation transfer and I can know what I need to fix. Where the research is used to do it, it's just like when if you're running and you try a certain movement and you can run faster and you keep doing it, but you don't get it the first time. Somehow in life, we know that we don't get it the first time, but our systems are built out, and the cost of research, the more expensive and the more time research takes, the less likely it's being used as a development tool, and more it's being used as the Roman emperor. They live, they die,
Hmm.
is what happens. The second part of this is dusting yourself off. Think of the psychology. I've got this idea. I think I know what it is. I got a
Mm-hmm.
hypothesis. I try it. It didn't work. It's like our first smoked whiskey. It was what we called a spitter, as in after you tasted it, you had to spit it out because it was
Got
so
it.
bad.
Yep.
And we could only test it in outdoor venues where people could spit on the ground because it was so bad. And after a month or so of working on it, we win a double gold at the North American Bourbon Championship with it. And in fact, it's right over my head there now, a version of it, which was the RB Smoked Bourbon. And that energy it takes to dust yourself off and do it again, where do we get that energy to do it again? Where do we get it to go back and try it again? Go back to the first part of this. What and why?
Right.
What and why? When we have the what and why, that's our motivation to not give up. That's our motivation to keep going and to take another. So you do 72, and eventually it was number 73. And you know what? I don't care about the 72. All I care about at the end, when you look back, is hey, we got it at 73.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You found a way to get there. So improving all the time. It's very good. I appreciate all the tools you shared, starting with the clarity about the problem, why
Salt.
that is important, moving
Yeah.
on to the create session, and then this is golden, right? That this Deming cycle that a lot of us have some familiarity with, but actually putting it into practice as a way that we move towards innovating, right? Making something new. So excellent discussion of tools. I'm going to ask you for an innovation quote in just a moment as we all enjoy those. But first, there's a lot of tools that product managers need to know to be competent. And I would encourage you, now that we're into the beginning of 2025 here, to think about, have you actually taken the time to improve yourself and consequently improve your career? Getting the tools that we need kind of under our belt, so to speak, to really excel in the work we do is important. And I rely on those that are been researched now for over 50 years. PDMA, the Product Development Management Association, has been researching the tools and concepts and practices that we need to know to really be professionals in our field. And I have my own system for conveying those tools and providing training. It's called the RPM experience, Rapid Product Mastery Experience. It really does help you get grounded on a broad perspective to help you be successful. If you're doing this with a group, if you're a product VP and you want to bring this in for your product managers, it's an excellent way to increase collaboration and build trust as well. If you want to find out how you can take that step to really become a professional product manager to move towards product mastery, simply go to productmasterynow.com/RPM and you can see how it works and if it will help you. And back to our innovation quotes. Doug, what do you have for us this time?
Well, for this, it's really easy. I told you up front, 3.5 hours a day is wasted by the average manager.
Mm,
75% of that is on broken systems, communication systems, IT systems, SOPs, bureaucracy. Deming famously said, 94% of the problem's the system, 6% is the worker. It's the system. When people stop doing the blame game and blaming people and instead look at the systems, the tools, the
right,
training, the the raw materials that they've got to work with, the strategic system of giving focus to people. When you fix the system, the problem goes away. The blame
right.
goes away. And now we've got engagement and we've got a team working together. So 94% is the system, 6% is the worker. When you believe that, and you take action on the system instead of just blaming people, then you will see magnificent success.
Absolutely. And as you shared last time, you will stop the stupid.
That's right. And that's the irreverent way that we talk about it, as stopping the stupid. And I do that because we come in and do a workshop. I was with a company yesterday. They're training everybody in the company to it. And it's magical what's happening. I mean, we've literally lit off a viral thing in this organization as they're doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
employees come in and they'll they'll always sit there and go, "Oh God, we got to go through this damn training. Why the hell do we have to do that? What have I got a problem?" Because most training has an implied criticism in it. And
Mm,
what we turn around and say is, "You're good, you're amazing, and here we're going to give you some tips so that you can be even better. We're going to coach you with some tips to make it better. And I want you to start." Not working on things to make the company more money or to improve quality on this because you don't really care. What's in it for you? I want you to start by stopping the stupid things that are getting in your way, that are part of that 3.5 hours a day that you're wasting to vaporize those things.
right.
And that's motivational.
Yes,
That's
it is.
motivational because the benefit, I'm asking an adult to change. People don't want to change. I got to give them what's in it for them. And what's in it for them is their back's not going to hurt because they don't have to lift the damn things into the box because they're going to roll it in and build the box around it instead of lifting it and putting it into the box. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do this that way because their head isn't going to hurt from having to redo these forms that keep coming to them that are stupid, that always have errors in them. That's what we're going to do. And that's going to light them up, get them engaged, and now you're going to create a new culture. We talk about
Yep.
culture change. It's rare that it happens. I'm
Right.
telling you, you can do it, but you got to do it from the people out.
Right. Yep. And if you're impacting, maybe we'll do another follow-up after you get done with this organization to kind of see how they change. But if you're impacting how people feel about engagement at the work and really getting connected to why they're there and how the work that they do is important, that changes culture.
Yes, absolutely.
Really good. Okay. How can people find out about the new book, about Eureka Ranch, any other resources you want to share?
EurekaRanch.com is really the place to learn about all of this stuff. And there's a site, DougHall.com, which I'm in the process of flipping it over to more of a book site that'll be just focused on the
Hmm.
books because my publisher says that's important to do. So I've got 8 books. And so it's going to become more of a book site
Hmm.
with more content and stuff that goes with it. But the EurekaRanch.com is really the place to go.
Okay, so eurekaranch.com for good insights, including some of the resources that we talked through as well, and the book and your other books at DougHall.com.
That's right.
Excellent. Doug, really appreciate the chance to talk again and to find out more about these tools. Thanks so much for sharing them with us.
Thank you, Chad.
And for listeners, if you want to find the written version of everything we discussed, simply go to productmasterynow.com/522. As always, keep innovating.
Thank you for listening to Product Mastery Now, where product leaders and managers gain product mastery through practical knowledge, influence, and confidence. By listening, you are becoming a product master, creating products customers love. Find additional resources at productmasterynow.com. Keep innovating.